All right, students, we're going to continue our discussion of short story by looking at character. And really, character is, to me, and I think to most teachers of writing, would say that character is the most important thing. You can have the greatest plot, you can have the greatest idea for a story, but if your characters aren't believable and interesting, the story is just not going to work. So these are important concepts. Okay, so some key terms here. The protagonist is what we would call the main character. And notice that I put here that not all protagonists are heroes. Not all protagonists are heroic. They often are people that we cheer for, but not necessarily what we would call a hero. So protagonist is just our main character. The antagonist is the main opposing character. Sometimes, not always, but sometimes it's the villain. As you can see, Darth Vader here would be the main antagonist to Luke Skywalker. But they're usually helping drive the conflict and the main interest of the story. A flat character is a one-dimensional character who only has one or a few defined traits. Most of your minor characters in a story are flat. This is not to be confused with a static character. Okay, a round character is much more multifaceted, one who is capable of choosing right and wrong. Your protagonist is usually round, and there's usually only a few characters in a story, especially in a short story, that we would consider to be round. Now, this is not to be confused with dynamic. Okay. So a dynamic character is one who changes, one who comes to a major realization, and they're never the same after that. Yes, this is often your protagonist, but sometimes the people in stories that were maybe the antagonists, they do change too by the end. I always think of Karate Kid, the very first one, the Johnny character, by the end, he comes around and actually likes Danny. And that happens in many, many stories. So even your antagonist is sometimes dynamic. A static character is one who does not change. And a type of static character is what we call a stock character. This is a character that's repeatedly used. We might also call it a stereotype-like character, the mad scientist, the blonde airhead of teen movies. Stock characters are encountered a lot in movies and popular fiction, but excellent writers have a way to use them but make them original. Like you think that they're stereotypical and then they surprise you. That's what excellent writers do. All right, the last two details here are really important. A good writer uses the mix of direct and indirect characterization. Direct is when an author tells us exactly what someone looks like, what they act like, what their personality is like. But it's not the most preferred way. It has its place, certainly, in telling a story, but the preferred way to learn about characters is what we call indirect characterization. And this is when an author lets a reader learn about a character by watching what that character says or does, and how they interact with other people, and what other characters say about them. And that lets us learn about them. Believe it or not, we really don't like to be told exactly what to think. We like to discover things as we read and as we watch movies. It's the same old thing, like, don't tell me how it ends. We don't want to know. We want to experience that. And that's definitely true about character.